Jaime, take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Christina. As she mentioned, my name is Jaime Lopez. I am a community college alum, transferred to Cal State Northridge in 2019, graduated in 2021. And throughout the years of being at community college and at Cal State Northridge, I have been working at the Naval Base Ventura County down here in the Oxnard area, including my time with being an intern and full time. I've been there for almost 6 years now, and I've kind of moved up throughout my time there into new positions to where now I am kind of a team lead, basically a supervisor of a project where I help and oversee different areas of engineers, technicians, logisticians, just everyone involved to get the projects that I work on uh, through the door. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. I probably have about 15 or 17 slides to share with you guys today. If you have questions at any time, feel free to throw them in the chat. I don't think I'll be taking the full time, but I do want to spend time at the end if there are questions or anything for the audience out there. So let me share my screen. If I am going a little fast, sorry, I kind of am just getting off of work and getting home and getting settled down. So let me kind of find my bearings real quick. All righty, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So as I said earlier, my name is Jaime Lopez Jr. My degree is in mechanical engineering, and I currently work at Naval Surface Warfare Center, the Port Hueneme division, as a team lead for different weapon systems, the production and refurbishment. So in today's meeting, we'll kind of go through a quick agenda. So an intro about myself, my family background, my early school life as a community college student, some of the struggles I had as a community college student, and being a STEM major and kind of being the first STEM major in my family. Getting involved on campus and how that kind of led to me breaking out of my comfort zone, and that led to small wins, which ultimately ended with me, kind of growing a community at Oxnard College and, Oxnard, Ventura, and Moore Park, all of the colleges, to be able to, foster community, mentor first year students, just to kind of help them see themselves in my shoes and the shoes of alums. And then we'll get into transfer prep, internships, which is a really important one that I have a couple slides on, eventually transferring, so graduating from community college and transferring out to your future universities. Some of the struggles I had during the transfer process, during those first couple years after transferring, finding community at your new school, kind of having to start over. You don't know where anything is. You don't have, people like Christine or your STEM counselors that you spent a lot of time with at your community college. You kind of have to grow and restart a lot of those relationships. Another topic that I want to touch on is upper division classes. Those are, beasts of their own, especially in STEM majors. Your area of emphasis. So as you choose your engineering major or your STEM major, there are every school calls it something different, but your area of emphasis is usually your specialty that you graduate with. So for example, I was a mechanical engineer with my area of emphasis being in fluids. And then my senior year, or just senior year in general, there are, usually a senior project or a capstone project where you are grouped with other majors or even different majors outside of the engineering college to kind of put together a large project, and you'll usually go to like competitions or conferences. And it's not really a class, it's more of kind of like a seminar, but it is something that I figure I would touch on. And I do have some cool pictures for my senior project. And then the last slide I kind of have is, how did I choose between jobs and going out into the workforce or continuing with grad school? So we'll go ahead and get started. So a little bit of intro on myself, originally from Oxnard, and I did come from large families on both sides. On my mom's side of the family, there are 14 other siblings. So the family parties are always fun, and we're always out and about doing stuff with cousins, aunts, uncles, tias, all the above. And then on my dad's side, there are 5 other siblings, so kind of the same thing. I was a bit of an athlete growing up. I was always involved in sports, but baseball was kind of my main one and what I took a liking to. I really did want to go on to play college and take it as far as I can, but I didn't have that opportunity. So I ended up sticking with school, and I think that's what's really worked out for me. And then I do have humble beginnings. Uh, my parents are first generation, so I wasn't first generation here in the United States, but still being the first in my family to do a lot of things with college and, being a STEM major and navigating those struggles and those new areas that, I didn't always have the advice or the person to go to or lean on. A lot of times it was having to figure things out on your own. Some of the pictures here I'll go over real quick. On the top left of the screen, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar, mariachis. It's kind of a typical family event, a gathering. On the picture below that, that's going to be my immediate family. That would be my dad, my younger sister, myself, and my mom. And that was at my graduation day at Oxnard College, which was actually the only time I had a graduation during CSUN. Was there during COVID. So I didn't get to have a graduation. So that picture does mean a lot to me. In the lower left picture, that's my kind of family dog growing up. And then just other family pictures over on the right side, being from Ventura County, there are a lot of beautiful camping locations that we go to. So it is a family tradition to go camping every Easter, and something I definitely look forward to every year. So we'll go on to the next slide. So my early school life, I definitely was not the smartest kids by any means. I really did struggle early on with being able to read. And as I did kind of advance through elementary school, it did grow, and I did have to do a lot of outside work with parents and other tutors to help me be able to read. And then as that kind of reading struggle came on, I did have reading comprehension. I was always kind of in the lower categories of school or in like the standardized tests. And I just kind of threw that on there to show, sure, I may be an engineer, but, I'm not didn't start out as the smartest person in the world, or didn't have, straight A's my entire life or perfect SAT scores. I'm definitely a regular person, and it just took a lot of time and effort to be able to get to where I am. I did always enjoy math though. I did kind of like the numbers, the problem solving, and the thinking that had to go into getting answers. So as I kind of touched on, I never imagined or saw myself being an engineer. And honestly, I didn't know what an engineer was, maybe not until I got to community college. So it really was not in my direct path. I had, kind of decent grades in high school, but I never really applied myself. I really wanted to, play sports, hang out with friends, and do that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, I'm doing okay. I don't really need to, be able to be the smartest person or that kind of thing. So I kind of did have average test scores. I didn't have any special grants or scholarships, or I wasn't going to a 4-year right out of school. There were no special opportunities for myself. So then I figured, let me see what the community college route is. I knew I did want to go to school, and I just didn't know what path I wanted to take with school. So as I got to community college and kind of started to get things figured out, in our area, the Ventura County area, there is a grant called the 2-year promise. So you get 2 free years of schooling at any of the community colleges, Oxnard, Moore Park, or Ventura, if you have a local high school diploma. And I still kind of really didn't know what I wanted to get into, but I thought, hey, might as well. It's 2 free years. I think I can figure something out by then. I ended up choosing mechanical engineering just because I knew I really liked math, and uh, that I could possibly make a future with that liking. And probably like many of you in the audience, I did have to work all throughout college. I wasn't, fortunate enough to have the means or the, scholarships or grants early on to fund my tuition or my college. So I did have to have jobs. Like I have Home Depot here on in the middle. I was a cashier, and I would always work closing shifts because I would try to work my schedule around my class schedule. And then once I did kind of start to be more involved on campus at Oxnard College, I started to have uh, jobs that were on campus. So it did make things a lot easier. And throughout my time in community college, I did spend 4 years. So I wasn't just 2 years in and out, transferred. I did take a lot of time just because of, struggles, having to work, not always being able to take a full load of units, very much so having to, grow up, live life, and try to maintain good grades. So it definitely was a struggle, and kind of like a nonstop thing of, school, work, no free time, but it really did all pay off. And looking back, it really was such a short time in my life to be able to make those sacrifices, but it really did pay off. So some of the struggles going into community college and, being a STEM major, specifically engineering. So on paper, you look at engineering and, oh, it sounds good. You think that, there's a lot of jobs available and it'll be somewhat easy, but I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I probably should have done a lot more research, but that's also kind of where I didn't have anyone to ask in my family or friends, new friends that were engineers, to get some type of background or info. It was all just kind of, Google and YouTube and trying to figure out, is this something I'm really going to like? Is this something I think I can be good at? So early on, I really was, stressed and overwhelmed, not just with classes, but figuring out what I wanted to do and commuting to the different campuses to take classes to try to accommodate to my schedule. And that ultimately ended up to me failing and repeating a couple classes. And that is, I would say, pretty standard across the board, at least with a lot of my peers throughout the community college and university level. And engineering's no joke. And sometimes, you aren't able to get things on the first try. But as long as you just don't give up and keep going, learn from your mistakes, or maybe take classes with at different universities or colleges to try to accommodate to your learning style. So once I started kind of failing, I knew that I had to make a change. I didn't feel that I was really doing my best, so I really focused on trying to fix my shortcomings. And I really learned or started to learn how to study, but it didn't click overnight. I would see small improvements here and there, but it's not just like the flip of a light switch. It did take me, I would even say extra semesters to be able to learn how to manage the workload of taking, 12 or 16 units working and taking classes for a second time and trying to figure out where those mistakes were made. And then something that kind of led into that too was, since I didn't really have the ability or anyone to lean on, at least I thought, I really thought that I had to take this on the bull by the horns and do everything on my own. And that was also, looking back, probably one of the larger mistakes, which caused, the failed classes, me having to really dig deep and figure out if engineering was something I wanted to stick with. It's a combination of, the stubbornness, but also being scared to admit that you are, not reaching your potential in your classes, and having to be vulnerable, really. So I did think I could do everything on my own, and I had to quickly get out of that mindset if I wanted to stay in engineering and be successful. So slowly but surely, I did start to see people in the same classes. We're all taking the kind of baseline engineering math and physics classes, and you start noticing cliques or groups of people that either went to high school together or know each other, or they really became friends early on and started studying together. And I started to notice their success. And, I would get my test results back and see that I didn't do too well, but I would hear them or see them in the hallways talking about how great they did, or what this person did to solve this problem correctly, and how they remember studying for that, or that they were in office hours and they got help or hints from the professor. So that's where I kind of started to catch on, and I knew that I needed to step out of my comfort zone and really make an effort to at least introduce myself to them, or ask them for help, or see who's tutoring them, just to kind of take that first initial step. And once I did that, they were kind enough to befriend me and take me into their group, and they started to introduce me to the campus community and all of the resources that are available and at each of the colleges, Oxnard, Ventura, and Moore Park. More than just tutoring, but STEM centers, or the Mesa centers, all the different on-campus clubs, and all of these different groups that are intermingling to help them reach their higher goals. So they really became not only friends or a study group, but it was also a support group. Because as you start taking more and more classes and advancing throughout your collegiate career, you're really stuck with those same group of people up until you transfer, or if you guys end up going to the same university together. So you really do become close, and someone may be struggling or going through something or not doing too well in a class, and that's where you're there to help pick them up. And I would say I really did become good friends with a lot of people during my time at community college, and I'm lucky enough that our friendships were good enough that we still communicate to this day and hang out, now that we're either working, or I have friends that are still pursuing their either masters or doctorates now in engineering. So it is cool to be with them throughout all these different stages of our lives. And then the last little bullet there, I started to become involved, and that really did change my perspective on my college education, as well as kind of the life that I wanted to live. So all that happened because I took that first step, right? And I broke out of my comfort zone. So I started to join clubs. I started to introduce myself to my professors and go to their office hours, or even just kind of hang out with them before class. In Oxnard, Ventura, Moore Park, all of the classes are relatively small. So you do have a little bit more of that one-on-one relationship with the professors, and really get to know them as a person, not just as your professor. And then I started to also be proactive and not reactive. So instead of getting my test results and seeing where I did wrong and trying to fix that, I kind of tried to catch things earlier and be proactive and try to get everything front loaded at the beginning of semesters or classes or projects to kind of mitigate that risk. And if there was anything that was going to go wrong or I wasn't going to understand, I was going to know what that was and be able to get time with the professor, with tutors to help me understand. And then I also started to spend a lot more time on campus. So this is kind of once I broke out of my comfort zone and was in these support groups, these joining these clubs. I have a couple clubs on here, SHIP in the middle, and then on the left side, engineering, math, and physics club at Oxnard College. I ended up earning like a tutoring job on campus of tutoring kind of a basic calculus, algebra, things like that. And I think that's also really helped me a lot to be more involved in the community and just further like step out of my comfort zone. I wasn't really breaking out anymore, and that this is kind of the new person that I was becoming. So after getting jobs on campus and really starting to get accustomed to having better results in classes, being happier because I'm doing better in school, I'm not as worried about failing classes or stressed out. I did start to gain confidence. And once that happened, I really started to get a good idea on how studying works for me. And that really also helped me do a lot better in school. This was, a complete 180. Once I learned what worked for me based on, the classes and the syllabus and how the professors were teaching classes, I started to tailor my like note taking, the questions I would ask, the time I would spend in office hours to how I could use it to my advantage. And it also helped being able to be in school. Now, at this point, I was in full time for 2 or 3 years. I wasn't, a first year student trying to figure everything about engineering and what I needed to do. I was starting to become a little bit more seasoned. I've seen classes from the same professor 2 or 3 times. I'm starting to be with those same study groups. We're starting to click really well, and my grades went up because of that. And also utilizing the resources available on campus. For Oxnard College, the STEM Center was a huge part of my success, and just being able to be around like-minded students, students that are taking the same classes as me, or that they already took classes that I'm currently taking to be able to help guide me and mentor me and give me heads up about things. This is where things really started to turn positive. So let's see here, transfer prep. As I was, still maneuvering through school, starting to get through classes and starting to get into some of the engineering classes or a little bit more tougher classes and getting ready to transfer. This was also a really big time in my life on where do I want to go? Do I want to stay local? Do I want to go out of state? What kind of resources does each campus have that is applicable to me and what I want to do? What type of engineering specialties do the professors have there? Those are the kind of things that I started to look into and figure out what I wanted to do for the next steps in my engineering education. And also another major one is financial aid. Like I had mentioned earlier, I did have to work all throughout school, and financial aid, was a requirement for me. I wouldn't be able to survive without it. So which school would offer the best financial aid package or any type of grants or scholarships or things like that. And then for me personally, after being in school for so long and taking so many classes and credits, man, I think after I graduated and transferred, I want to say I had like over 200 credits at community college, which is a lot. I was going to school spring, summer, fall. If there were online classes during winter, I was taking them. I really wanted to be on the fastest track that I could to be out in the workforce. And that may not be the same case for everyone. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. But for what I wanted to do, I wanted to be on the fastest path to be able to get my degree and start working. So to be able to kind of get on that track of wanting to be able to get in the workforce right away, and being so involved at the community college level, I did start to become exposed to internships, scholarships, grants, and like I mentioned earlier, I had never heard of any of these opportunities until I really started to be on campus and spend time in the Mesa or the STEM centers and be around those like-minded people that knew others that were doing great things and were gaining internships, or knew all of these list of scholarships to apply to that were begging for people to apply. And this really didn't happen until probably my third or fourth year at community college. So this was still relatively new to me, but I knew that this was only going to be beneficial. So I needed to really jump on it. So I applied to, any scholarship, internship. I didn't care if I fit the um, prerequisites or the requirements. I was just writing. I remember one or two spring and winter breaks. All I did was work on my writing skills and being able to tailor my skills or my classes and what I knew to different types of internships and different scholarships. And if there is one tip of advice I can give, and something I still do to this day, is, create a Google Drive and just load that baby up with all of your different applications, and tailor sections to each application so you're able to just you know reference one application that you really want to for an internship, for example. And let's say you've applied to 5 previous internships, you can copy and paste and tailor it to the one you really want. The hard work is done up front. So that's what really helped me apply. I mean, I would say I applied to 200 at least, combination of internships, scholarships, and grants throughout my college career. I did get rejected a lot, and that's okay. What changed was I didn't take it as a negative. I would always ask when they would send me a rejection letter, what could I have done better? What type of applicant did you end up admitting, accepting, giving the funds to, so that I know when I apply next time, I'm going to have the strongest package and you're not going to be able to deny my letter. So being that kind of what's the word? Just keeping my foot on the gas in that term really helped me end up finally getting an internship. And it was hard. I would say, I went a year or 2 years uh, applying and not getting anything. And that's fine as long as you keep applying and tailor your writing to every application. Eventually one will bite. And that did happen for me. And once I got that first internship and threw that on my resume, I'll tell you the next 100 applications were easy. It was almost like accepted, accepted, accepted. I got to the point where I had to choose which opportunity was going to be the best for me, what I wanted to do with my career. And it did get to a point where, as a college student, I was starting to negotiate my internship pay. So it does take a lot of work, but I really would say this is probably one of the most important parts of getting your foot in the door to start your career. So it's never too late to start thinking about this type of stuff, even if you are a first year. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to apply and be proactive and ask, if you do get rejected, what were the weak points in my application? what type of applicant was accepted, what can I do better next time. So on here I do have two of the main internships that I did that I probably enjoyed the most. I did, I think, 3 internships with NASA for a summer. They did fly me out, and a paid internship that I did over in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. I was working on a project with actual, NASA engineers on trying to figure out how to land a rover on Titan, which it's been a while, but I want to say it's one of Jupiter's moons. And I was on a team that was studying the type of like rubber or material that had to be used for like the not the actual like rover, but the landing pad. I wish I had a picture, but what would end up like being landed on one of the lakes on Titan and kind of like stabilizing there, and then the rover would kind of leave out of that pad. So that was really cool. It was a really intensive project. I would say that was my first real exposure to engineering. Engineering up to that point for me was, formulas and all these different laws of physics and, taking class, doing all of these tests and, having classes that had labs, but it wasn't really, to me, up to that point, actual engineering. This was my real first exposure to what I thought was, real engineering, where there's decision making, there is huge amounts of teamwork. Budget was also another thing that you don't really think of as a student, but budgetary issues, and I really did enjoy that internship. After my couple internships with NASA, I did finally get one that I really wanted, which was with the Navy. So here local to me, there are 2 Navy bases. There's going to be Naval Base Point Magoo. They are kind of the main command there is Nav Air. So they usually work with aircraft or kind of that type of thing, sensors, imaging, a lot of electrical components. And then at Hueneme is where I work is going to be the Naval Surface Warfare Center. So we deal with like surface combatants. So it's going to be all ships, all the different types of Navy ships. And specific to me, the internship I got is actually within the same like branch that I work in today. I got an internship with a weapon systems branch. So I started there as a summer intern, first unpaid, which was definitely a sacrifice compared to my NASA internships, but I knew that this was what I really wanted. And with it being local to me, I knew that this was going to be, if I could stick it out and I liked it, that this was going to be my home. So after one summer of interning with my branch, that turned into, a second summer paid. And then that second summer paid turned into kind of like a pre-employment program that I got into, where basically instead of being an intern, I became a government employee just as a student. So that would guarantee my conversion to a full-time employee once I graduated from university. So I started working there, I think my first year that I had transferred to CSUN. I want to say it was like 2019. And I've been there ever since. I was able to work more than just summers. I was able to work, during the weeks. If I didn't have class on Friday, I could go clock in and help where help was needed, or even on my spring breaks, winter breaks. It was really flexible and nice. So we'll go to the next slide here. So once I did end up transferring, I chose to go to CSUN, and I did choose to commute to save money. Again, my FAFSA was limited. I was kind of saving up money from internships and working on campus, and I at community college, and I didn't have a job lined up on campus at CSUN, since it was such a huge campus, and the people that are in those jobs, the students that are in those jobs on campus, have been there for years already, since maybe they were a freshman. So for a transfer student, that option really wasn't available to me. I wasn't lucky enough to find an opportunity to get hired on campus. So I did choose to commute, which from where I live now with traffic is probably about an hour and 10 minutes in the mornings. And when I would come home at night, it would probably be like a 2-hour drive. And I would do that Monday through Thursday, sometimes Monday through Friday, depending on my class schedule for that semester. So that really was a lot. I would not recommend that to everyone, but as I had mentioned earlier, with the way that my classes lined up and the credits I had, picking CSUN was going to be putting me on the fastest track to graduate and to start my career. And if I had to commute to be able to meet that goal, that was a sacrifice I had to make. And for sure, there were tons of long nights and being tired and not wanting to drive, or driving to campus for a day of 3 classes and 2 of them get canceled. And you're just kind of stuck there figuring out, do I stay? Do I go home? What to do? But um, it really did help define me as a person and allow me to be able to withstand a lot more things on my plate. And then just overall with transferring, I did feel like I started over. I didn't have those same cliques. No one really from my community college transferred to CSUN. Everyone kind of scattered out. There were some students that stuck together and were fortunate enough to get opportunities at like, let's say, Cal Poly SLO, for example, or UCLA, but I wasn't able to be a part of those groups, so I didn't have a buddy to be able to carpool with, or let's take the same classes together. I really was a little bit of an outcast and I had to start over, but I'm glad that I had the experience of going through that once already at Oxnard College. And I knew right away that, for me to succeed here, I had to go through it again. So I had to start over with meeting professors, getting to know all of my admin people, and being at a larger campus. There are multiple counselors for engineering at CSUN. It went by your student ID number. 2,000 students are allocated to one counselor, and there's 6 or 8 counselors that are in the engineering department. So I had to really make time, fit into my schedule, and be able to start on the right foot. And kind of also having to meet friends. I didn't have, like I mentioned, someone that I knew that was going there. There were a couple other people from Oxnard College that transferred, but they were, not necessarily mechanical engineers. They might have been electrical or computer or other majors. So I didn't have that kind of direct line to call when I needed help, but I knew that there were some people there. And I guess kind of the hard part was going in as a transfer student. You're going in on like it's your first day of school at a new school, when you're in classes now with people that have been together since freshman year. So you do kind of have to break barriers a little bit and make friends, and again, break out of your comfort zone and be okay with doing that. So some of my struggles, I'll start to speed it up here. I did just check the time. Um, I would say the first semester, your first quarter, is always going to be the hardest. Just try to stick it out. It's kind of across the board. Everything's new, whether you're living on campus, off campus, you're away from your family. It's almost like school is not the main priority. You're trying to figure out how to get situated in a new area, where stores are that you need to go to, what food places are around. So school almost is like a little bit of a backseat thing, but it is just as important. You are having to adjust to classes being more difficult. If you do go from like a semester to a quarter system, that speed of the shorter weeks per for class, that is a huge adjustment. So don't feel bad. That's, like I said, across the board. Everyone I talk to, it's always the roughest. It's just an adjustment, but once you get adjusted, you'll be fine. And then I did have some administrative issues. Some of my credits or classes that I took, they don't automatically, or they weren't getting like automatically picked up in the CSUN like college registration system. So I did end up my first semester getting waitlisted for a lot of classes, and I did have to spend a lot of time talking to counselors and talking to deans and having my transcripts always, in my backpack ready to show to prove that, I did do this. It was shown to be transferable when I graduated, that, I deserve to be in this class. And you really do sometimes have to fight for your ability to take that class, because sometimes classes aren't offered every semester. Sometimes they're offered, once a year, once every 2-3 quarters. And, if there's a lecture class of 80 to 100 people, and there's 10 people on the wait list, and you're on the wait list spot number 10, you really need that class. You have to kind of figure things out and finagle where you can. And that was definitely something new. I don't think I was ever waitlisted at the community college level. So I think I'm almost done here, probably a couple more slides. Thank you all for bearing with me. But we'll get into upper divisions and my area of emphasis. So taking that step from community college engineering to like university engineering is one step. And, that's a huge accomplishment, but being able to succeed and do well and make that transition from your university level classes to your upper division classes, which are going to be like your, I don't know, 400 level, 500 level classes. Every university is different, but basically what you take once you are past your general engineering classes that are a little bit more focused, usually at the end of your junior year or your junior year, what would be your junior year at university, they are no joke. They are really tough. You have to utilize, everything you've learned up to that point to solve really complex problems. Sometimes on tests, I would have one problem that would take me, 2-3 hours to solve. And you are having to use all of your previous physics, calculus, equations, everything to be able to solve a problem or attempt to solve the problem. They are in general less theoretical, depending on, which path you go down, and they're more practical. So as I have here shown in one of the pictures on the top, this is going to be the heat cycle process of a oh man, it's been so long, I think it's a turbo ram engine. So there's all these different exhaust chambers, turbines, there's compression, combustion, there's moving components. And each section of this area, when I was in school, I used to be able to, break down based on the variables or like the parameters I was given to solve a problem. But now this is all foreign to me. But I did used to really have a good grasp on that stuff, and it was stuff that I enjoyed. And that's where I kind of, once you get into your area of emphasis, you get to pick. So if you want to do, like for mechanical, for example, if you want to do fluids, if you want to do more of like design, spending time in CAD or SolidWorks or Fusion, you get to choose that path. And for me, that's where I started to really enjoy school, and it combined with the enjoyment of being confident in my ability to, solve these problems, but also like wanting to learn more. This is where I really felt like I was an engineer. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be involved. This is where I actually really started to get excited, and my grades also reflected that. I did do a lot better once I did get kind of accustomed to upper divisions, but it just made like the content of the class something that I wanted to learn and show up to, and really pay attention to and ask questions every day. So that was probably my favorite time of my schooling, was my last 2 years. And then my senior year, I was kind of planning things out to finish a lot of my classes and work more during my senior year, and also have, small like gen eds to kind of ease my class threshold, and so that I would be able to focus a lot more also on my senior project. So kind of here on the right side, we have the CAD design or the SolidWorks model of my senior project, which was the intelligent ground vehicle. So to be able to graduate, you have to be able to be on one of these capstone projects. And it really is almost like being at work. You're in meetings with all of these different groups. I think my senior project for this time, there was like 200 or 300 students on the project, and there's all these different groups. Some focus on design, some focus on the modeling, as I have here. On the lower, this is like an FEA model showing the stresses on a prototype frame. And then on the top is like the battery design for our system. So it was powered by batteries. We kind of copied a combination of different like Tesla battery designs. And I think on that top one, it's showing airflow and to keep the batteries cool. And the group that I was a part of was the sensor program. So the intelligent ground vehicle is a fully autonomous vehicle that has to run a course, and it has to run this course in a certain amount of time. And if you hit objects or flip over or do anything outside of what they're asking of you, you lose points, and it docks your time. And it was a competition-based senior project. Some of the senior projects are, conference-based, so you go to conferences and you have to present your theory and your findings to different boards, and they sign off on you passing the class basically and allowing you to get your degree. So for my senior project, I was on the sensor team. So on that left side of the screen is like a live LiDAR scan. So kind of like a pinging radar that was being picked up by a computer that was remotely plugged into our intelligent ground vehicle. So it was a live view. I think on top of it, we had like a desk and like a whiteboard, and it was showing that the sensors would be able to communicate to through code, that they were able to communicate what they were seeing. So it was pretty cool. Overall, a really great project, and I feel like it did prepare you for the real world. And that's really the point of the senior project, is to, you finished, you've proven you can do all of your engineering classes and that you've gotten that far, and now it's time to really put you in a work environment. And then my situation was a little bit different, since I did already have a job lined up, but at this time I still was kind of attending job fairs, putting myself out there, seeing what best offer I could get. And once you're at university, job fairs are a big thing. They happen, I want to say, almost monthly or quarterly. So definitely prepare resumes. Don't be afraid to speak to recruiters. Everything can be used as experience. And then kind of how I touched on the last slide about taking upper divisions, that this was really like the smartest I felt, and probably the best I felt about school. And I really did think long and hard, do I want to go into the workforce, or do I want to continue into grad school? Because school really was starting to click for me. I felt like I could look at problems and be able to solve them very easily, and like to the best of what was being asked of me. So I did go down this kind of road path of, what do I want things to look like for myself. I did have a job lined up, but I did want to see, what can I learn in grad school? What can I get from it? And, what schools were the best for my area of emphasis, which was fluids. I did take some pre-practice FE exams and professional engineer exams. So the fundamental of engineer exams is usually a test you take your junior or senior year university, and that kind of gets you also in the door to help you get internships. Once you pass that test, you have to shadow an actual engineer that is licensed to be able to take the next steps to take your professional engineering exam and eventually get your license. I did start that process, but never ended up following through with it. And also that just depends on, where you want to work. In some places, it's a requirement for you to be an FE or a licensed professional engineer. And that was also something I wasn't aware of until I was at Cal State Northridge. So definitely something to keep in mind. So I did end up doing some applications. I didn't really think too much about it. I knew that I was at the end of school, and definitely once that last 1 or 2 months of senior year hit, I was feeling senioritis to the max and ended up accepting the full-time position at the Navy base and have been there ever since. I did kind of move my way up throughout the past 6 years from intern to, floor engineer to running a small team of engineers to now where I'm at is my official title would be like a team lead, to where I have 20 to 25 people, not just engineers, that I task or that report to me, that I help out daily to be able to complete the mission. So that's kind of been my STEM journey. I didn't think it would take that long, but we're kind of at the end of time. So if there are any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, or I can have Christine hand out my email to all of those in the audience. And I am usually free to be able to chat. I really do take time to help students, or to, where I can, to help mentor, because I wish I had that when I was at the community college level. And if I can give any advice or anything I can, I definitely would not mind it. So that's all I had for today. Thank you everyone for hanging out and listening to me for the past hour or so. And to all the students out there, just keep going, don't give up. And, really, if you aren't doing too well, try to make friends, make a friend group, use the resources that are available to you, or just be aware of the resources that are available to you. I always say that there are people that this is, their living is to help you succeed. And this is what they do. They take pride in it, and they really want to help you be the best that you can be. So thank you, everybody. I'll hang out here for a little bit longer.
Jaime, thank you so much. Cuesta College did say thank you so much and congrats on all your success. That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else have questions or anything? Yeah, so and if you do want to connect with Jaime, feel free to reach out to me. I will put my email address in the chat, but let me just make sure I got it right. Yeah. Yeah. So if anybody wants to connect with Jaime, please feel free to email me and I can connect the two of you together. I think it's really important. I know sometimes it's scary to reach out and ask for, kind of, just a conversation, or even if you're struggling with something, reaching out to someone who's been there. It can feel scary to do that, but all of us are here to support, you. We've all been there at one point or another, and we've always had, and we've either wanted or we've had someone that's pulled us through. So please feel free to reach out if you want to connect with us. Lots of thanks to yous in the chat, Jaime. Thank you.
Yes, I'm seeing that. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. And Jaime, thanks again. And everybody,
Yeah, no problem.
have a wonderful holiday, spending time with family or whatever you do during that time. So good night.